How many of you have learned Open Heart Yoga too? Okay. Highly recommend learning all levels of Open Heart Yoga. I was thinking of doing a variation of Guru Yoga based on things taught in Open Heart Yoga too, but then we won't do it. So let's start from posture, from feeling the body. You can take a few deep breaths, settling into the body, opening from the deep, releasing tensions. Feel your body made of flesh and bone. And there is immense brimming of life in our body. Is there? Feel that aliveness. Recognize that aliveness. So recognition of the aliveness means that, we feel this warmth and this aliveness in our body. And recognition of this aliveness is that there is knowing of this aliveness. Knowing of aliveness in the body. There is recognition of aliveness. And if we look at it closely, are the knowingness, recognition, and the aliveness two different things or the same thing? If they are two separate things, then there is distance between the two. If they are the same, there is no distance between the two. And then the third characteristic is groundedness, kind of solidity. Like a mountain is grounded and solid, settled, that kind of groundedness. So knowingness, knowing and aliveness, are they settled? Settled in a way that it can't be pushed over. Three basic characteristics of the natural state. So three facets to the same jewel. So let's go back to that aliveness, and especially aliveness in the chest-heart area. Feel aliveness from the heart. Aliveness in the heart. How does it feel like? Find out. Right in the core of the heart. Inside the center of your chest. Right there in the middle. I often use, when I talk about aliveness and when guiding practices, I often mention rainforests as an analogy for aliveness of awareness. Some of us might have been in an actual rainforest, or at least we've seen a rainforest from a television and can, imagine how it is in there. many trees, bushes, animals, sounds, humidity, moisture, fertility, potential for life. Do you have that same potential? A rainforest in your mind. Bushes, plants, flowers of many kinds, colors, flowering, blooming. Sitting in rainforest mind. So this aliveness is not only in the chest, the rainforest likeness is not only in the chest, it's in the whole body mind. Isn't it? So now we've been sitting resting in the recognition of the natural state through these few pointers. How about if from here we, mind easily goes thoughtless when it is pointed out like this. And it is very nice getting a rest from thoughts and busyness of mind. But now, even if the mind, its thoughts, its associations are absent, what if we now think about the common everyday functions of the mind? Kind of like practicing some conceptual Vipassana for better understanding how the mind works and what the structure of our everyday busy mind, confused mind is. So now you're sitting in that rainforest. I don't mean visualizing sitting in a rainforest, but in that feeling, in that spaciousness, in that moisture, in that love, in that groundedness of our own awareness. Now imagine that there is a thought. Thought appears in your mind, one single thought. Just like thoughts pop up in our mind every day, just some random thought, sort of like a bubble, comes up. And from that rainforest awareness, be aware of that bubble. And just like thoughts do come, stay and go, also this thought bubble comes, stays and disappears. Then you can imagine another thought, another bubble. It can be a thought about anything really. It can be a mental image. It can be a thought about something, or it's just a simple, a thought about anything. And again, sitting in that rainforest, being together with that thought, or a memory, or thought association, or an idea, or a reaction, as long as it stays, lasts. And when the thought disappears, the object, the bubble disappears, there's nothing. Just that clarity of knowingness, aliveness, moisture, and groundedness. Now imagine another thought about anything. And when the bubble stays, look back into the source of looking. Look back into the source of looking, where you are looking from at the thought, at the bubble. Where are you looking from? And then from there, also be aware of the bubble again. What happens here when we, instead of being interested only about the object that appears in the mind, we turn, well, figuratively speaking, turn the light back to its source. And that source is always in the headspace. That's where the attention goes out from. So in Open Heart System, we have a two-part formula for deconstructing the sense of subject self, me, I, mine, that idea, that stubborn thought from our mind stream, which always sits behind the eyes in the head. And in Open Heart, we call it subject self. And then these thoughts or bubbles we've been imagining a couple of times in this session, these are called object selves. Objects because they appear in the mind space sort of like objects, like things. If an object is a strong emotion, let's say like an anger or frustration, restlessness, it can momentarily assume the position of the subject, even if one has processed through the two-part formula. So, anger, for example, when it sweeps over us, it can create the subject self momentarily. But because the standard subject self that is normally sitting inside the eyes, inside the head, has been deconstructed, then the sticking of any strong emotion is different. It bypasses faster. And it's easier to sort out, easier to see through emotions. And having said that, it's easier, but it's not, I don't mean to say that it's easy to see through strong emotions. If it was easy, we'd be much more advanced than we are. So there is always challenge with Vipassana practice because emotions have glue to them, attachment, glue of self in them. So, still enjoying that rainforest, birds singing, parrots. What do parrots do? What? Squawk. Okay. Squawking parrots, screaming monkeys, wind in the bushes and trees, and that immense moisture, 100% humidity. So we did some workshopping on a simple thought, object thought, and then briefly looking into subject thought. Now let's think of what I mentioned, like let's imagine a strong emotional state. Let's say the mentioned anger, becoming angry. Imagine in this rainforest experience of the emotion of anger coming up. You can use think of something that would make you angry, some person who would make you angry, something that would make you angry, not getting paid on the payday making you angry. Use anything. And as you imagine that anger, feel it for a moment. How is it like? How does it feel? What's the energy of it? What's the feeling of it? Again, you can, from this object of emotion, emotional energy, you can again look back into the source of looking. Where is it? Where it is? Get a sense of that. What's the energetic feeling in the source of looking? Knowing, alive, moist, grounded, and then from there, back from there, feel into the bubble of anger. You can put some more volume into that anger. Imagine a stronger anger. And then as you generate the anger, just feel it. See it, get a feel of it. What's the tone of it? What's the energy of it? What's the texture of it? What's in the heart of it? Anger happens to be a very fiery emotion. And then when you get a feel of it, now as we have been looking back into the source of looking, and as this knowing and aliveness and groundedness is very connected with the physical body, doesn't it feel like the anger is apart from the body? It's sort of like floating outside, a little bit outside the body. Do you get that feeling? That it's some distance away from the body, and certainly some distance away from the head. Something that is my favorite Vipassana, Vipassana technique, way of practicing Vipassana is that when this basic state has been clarified, then now in the case of anger, you just welcome, let that anger come into your body. You just completely surrender to it. Let the demon eat your body. Do that and see what happens. Being completely open for the anger to have your whole body. And from the clarity, knowingness, aliveness and groundedness of the basic state, just being aware of it. What happens is that the emotional state disperses. The self, the glue, the samsaric glue, in that emotion is released. This is Vipassana. Or, in Tibetan Vajrayana, Vipassana is called Laktong. In general, both terms are fine, although Vipassana is not taught like this in the lower vehicles. That's why some lamas use the word Laktong instead of Vipassana when teaching Vipassana in the context of Vajrayana. So, the anger, as the self becomes, you see through it by giving your body to it, the self gets released from that emotional state. And hence, you have what we began from, the rainforest. Right? Are you with me? Let's take another kind of emotion. Let's say being restless. Think of some situation where you would get restless. What would make you restless? Like restless meaning like anxious, restless. Imagine the emotional state, mind state of restlessness. The opposite of being patient. Look, can you close that one? And now be aware of that restlessness, that kind of being, energy of restlessness. Look at it, feel it, perceive it. What kind of shape does it have? Texture, color? Where is it located? From that restlessness, you can again look back into the source of looking, back into the source of seeing it. And then back to restlessness. And feel into the center, the heart of that restlessness. What is inside there? This is also like a Vipassana, looking into the energy, the core of any mind object, to release the glue of selfing. Or you can do again my favorite that we did with anger, and just welcoming that restlessness, allowing it to come into your body. Sort of like inviting children to play in a sandbox. You're the sandbox. Restlessness is the children. Let it do whatever it wants to do in your body, while being aware of it. And see what happens. Back in the rainforest. Let's take one more. Let's say self-pity, the emotion of mental state of self-pity. We all have that on some days. Some have more, some have less. So imagine that mental state, emotional state of self-pity, where you feel like nothing, like you're worth of nothing. Well, maybe waste of space is too much, but something like it. Recall the last time you had mental state of self-pity arise. That kind of being or entity or self within us that tells us that, oh, now we really fucked it up. I'm really such a loser, I'm nothing, I'm worthless, that kind of self. I fucked it up again. I'm worth nothing. So bring up that kind of self. And then when you get it going, again, same practice, same technique. The feel of it, the shape of it, texture, color, emotional tone of it, energy of it, seeing inside it, feeling the edges of it, feeling the inside of it and the core of it. Intuiting into the core of self-pity. And then again inviting the kids into the sandbox, letting that mental state come into your body. Feeding our body for the demon of self-pity. Letting it eat as much as it likes, as much as it needs, as long as it wants. And again, the same thing happens. Somehow, for some reason, this mental, emotional state becomes disarmed. The intensity, the narrowness, the stuffiness of that state, in other words, the self in that state, becomes released. This is Vipassana. This is standard Vipassana. And this is the really the heart and soul of Buddhist meditation, because in this way we reclaim our natural state. We integrate our, should I say, diseased parts back into our natural state, our true nature, integrating them bit by bit. And it's curious how, it's said that people who are confused or lost or, sad or in different emotional states, that all they need is love. And it becomes very clear through this experience that, when we offer our body, we might have the emotion of anger, the angry entity, angry being within us, or pitiful being, restless being, anxious being, depressed being, whatever entity, when we give it our attention, they become satisfied, nourished. Moisture of awareness, being nourished by love, being nourished by the natural state. Dipping our samsaric mind into the, deep bowl of natural awareness. And this is what happens. Okay, you can open your eyes, move your body, take a few deep breaths. Let's take a 5 minutes for toilet.